Yes, revolutionary greetings, comrade. This is Comrade Pidgin Odimwengu from, of course, this colonial territory called Kenya. Hope you can hear me. I'd like to invite you all to our Saturday classes as a conscious in study group. And this is our philosophical class, of course. We have Thursday philosophical class, and Saturdays we do Africa unification topics. We discuss current affairs in Africa in regards to political, social, and economical affairs. But our key issue in our thematic sessions on every Saturday is actually to discuss the unification of Africa into one continental government. This is the political unification of Africa, a conversation that has been missing in many African spaces. People think about how they want to unite the so-called tribes, which are actually nations, and people still struggle between this community to this community ruling their countries, and people still struggle within the borders of Kenya and Uganda, don't cross over. Well, the conversation about total unification of Africa into one political unit has been missing. And this is the intention and the reason why we created the Saturday class as a consciousness study class. So our main class is a philosophy class that takes place every Thursday from 7 p.m. GMT, where we study the book by Kwame Nkrumah called Conscience Book. It's a book Nkrumah wrote where he put the philosophy for decolonizing Africa. That's called conscience philosophy. And that's what we've been doing every Thursday. So this is actually, as I've said, a resultant class out of the Thursday classes that can enable us to discuss the unification of Africa. So allow me to actually recognize the presence of members who are already present here. If you can just introduce yourself in the chat list, tell us where you're connecting us from so that we can be able to start the conversation going. I see we have brother DJ Mr. P in my list. Of course, he's in UK, relations with Africa. He do say sometimes in Gambia. We have brother Coco, also in UK. Of course, originally from Lesotho, Africa. Another part of many Africans. We have brother Joseph already joining us here from the Caribbean, Joseph Anthony. We have the King Aoli joining us from Ghana. Myself, I'm here from Kenya. I have Tauya Chinama, whom I'm not sure where he's joining us from, but it seems he's from either the Zimbabwe, Zambia region. But feel free to put your area of representation in the chat list. So basically, that's how it is. I will start as our normal routines. We'll be going straight to start by the Continental Magazine, that we do the review of the Continental Magazine. And I'll go straight to that Continental Magazine so that we can do its review before we move to the next thing. Let me check the Continental Magazine. I think it was ready sometimes back. Let me just check it where it is so that we start the review. Meanwhile, feel most welcome. Feel free to share what you think. Feel free to discuss what you think is right, or even to introduce yourself, ask questions, express your feeling in the chats. Or what are you feeling, or how are you feeling joining us today? So feel free to do that as I try to check on this Continental Magazine. So once we have it, we'll be starting straight. Okay. Yes, so we are supposed to be ready to start. Otherwise, feel free to tell us maybe who you are, because we have new members of Jonathan. As I've said, can feel free to tell us who you are in the chat list, especially Comrade Chinawa. Yes, Comrade Coco, how are you wherever you are? I know in the England or UK, how is everything over there? Do you hear me, Comrade Coco?
I can hear you, brother. How are you? And how is everyone?
I'm equally fine.
Yeah, we are good. We are good. The UK is the UK. Brother P can tell you, Mr. P can tell you things are still the same in the UK. We just see the UK is going into war with the United States, and they are bombing lots and lots of targets in Syria and Iraq against Iran without any consultation of Parliament. So it is what it is. I guess it's a democracy.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll be picking other updates as we'll be moving along. So permit me to go straight to our Continental magazine. The Continental magazine is called The Continent. I'm going to check how I'll have to read, as you people told me some times back, to have let me see how I'll do it. But here is the magazine we review. We found it to be a what magazine. That's all in terms of its coverage on current affairs in Africa. So we actually decided to have it as our review magazine for our every classes on every Saturday. We start up with this magazine that covers so many parts of Africa in terms of the relevant information, in terms of what's necessary, and what's going on across the African continent. So let's start it from there. I think now the magazine is ready. Yes, we can start it. So yes, in the top line of the magazine today, the key issue that is given more attention is the Kenyan situation. They start by saying that the Kenyan people are enjoying their hustlers. Let me get the factual part of it. But let me have it here. So they say that Kenyans paying for hustler Ruto. You see, the Kenyan government actually has been duped. People of Kenya has been duped by the so-called hustler Ruto. Majority of you, of course, know him as the moving around president who actually claimed to be having the whole solution for the continent. So that's the headline of the Continental magazine. They go straight to cover issues to do the oil in Italy, and they say take the oil and keep Africans in Africa. The Sudan issue is going on, and basically let's go straight to the points. So we start with South Africa, where kleptocrat ex-president Jacob Zuma has been suspended from the ruling African National Congress just weeks after he launched a new political party called Umkhonto weSizwe. Except MK was the name of the ANC armed wing, forming in opposition to the apartheid regime, and so the party owns the trademark. Now the ANC want to sue to have Zuma's new home booted off South Africa register. Political parties, which will buy it from election later the year. In Ethiopia, of course, they say the second Amhara MP arrested as a regional war persisted. The member of parliament is called Desalge Chanie, who was arrested on Wednesday evening. His family said Ethiopian authorities have seen search his home and impounded his devices, but not given an official explanation for the arrest. In Nigeria, we have, of course, the suspect nabbed in high-profile kidnapping case. Nigerian police have arrested one of the suspected kidnappers in a case that roiled the country in recent weeks. The 28-year-old man reportedly admitted involvement in killing of the Nabeha Al-Qadira, a university student who was abducted with six of her siblings in Abuja. If you go in, of course, UK firms sue Burkinabe strikers. London registered Endeavour Mining has sued its Burkinabe workers who put their tools down last week in an attempt to force them back to the job. The firm extract mineral from Burkina Faso, Senegal, and Cote d'Ivoire. It says the strike was unplanned and illegal. It has not sued its ex-CEO, who's sacking for allegedly selling off assets irregularly, caused a 23% fall in the shares price. In Morocco, one consequence of sexism burst open. Authorities in Moroccan cultural capital, Fez, arrested 30 people, including doctors, nurses, and law enforcement agents, for working with unwaived women for traffic their babies to families that want to adopt them. Terminating unwanted pregnancy is illegal in Morocco, but women who give birth outside marriage are stigmatized for long, leaving unwed mothers in a bind. If you go to, of course, the issues of United States Security Council gathers at its navals as more Palestinians die. In Burkina Faso, more weapons, more war crimes. 3 army drones strike last year hit crowded markets at a funeral, killing at least 60 civilians. According to Human Rights Watch, which intervened, Burkina Faso North is controlled by militias who claim affiliated to or linked with the terror groups like Islamic State. The military junta, which overthrew a civilian government, promised to solve the insecurity brought by high-precision drones from Turkey to help in fight. In Kenya, hundreds are injured. A gas hauler exploded in Nairobi. At least 300 people were injured when a lorry carrying a gas exploded on Thursday night in Nairobi. By Friday afternoon, 9 of them were hospitalized as critically ill, with the 3 confirmed dead. Several other trucks were burnt down in the parking lots of the gas plant where the explosion happened. If you go to Libya, the cost of burning our planet is incalculable. Last September, flooding along the eastern coast of Libya resulted into losses of damage of $1.6 billion, says a report recently published by the Partnership of European Union, UN, and World Bank. The country will need at least $1.8 billion to rebuild the 20 municipalities where homes, cultural sites, and environment and water transport infrastructures were devastated. If you go to, of course, the story coverage of Ukraine and Russia, ICJ rules against Kiev in a case against Russia with the caveats. Then in Sierra Leone, parents, elders held for FGM deaths. Police in Sierra Leone arrested several parents and showers, senior women who were central in the initiation of the Bondo people. In Sahel, rough start for ECOWAS dropouts. The military rulers of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger announced over the weekend that they are leaving ECOWAS, the West African bloc, that sanctioned them after their coups. It has been, of course, a rough start for Burkina Faso. Cancelled a 58 million bond auction on Thursday due to low interest from spooked investors. Now, again in Kenya, welcome. We are going on with the welcome, comrades. We are in our sessions of we call it affairs. We go through the news across the continent. After that, and then we can get the reaction from the news, and then we go to our topic. So we are reading the magazine called The Continent, and we're getting reports across the continent using the magazine called The Continent. So in Kenya, for example, the leaders fled as women rage in battle for their lives. In Kenya, largest ever protest against gender-based violence, thousands of women and their allies marched the streets of Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Eldoret, and Kilifi and other parts of the town on Saturday. The protests follow a surge in cases of femicide, the killing of women in the country. Media reported 14 cases of women murdered in January alone. That's a report in Kenya. Of course, in Rome, Italy, they say Rome bid Africa an offer for it can't refuse. The issue here is that in a rare turn of events, Italy finds itself with a stable government, albeit one rooted in conservatives and anti-immigrant favorism. This means Prime Minister Gloria Malone, once governing party, can try to deliver its promises to stop illegal immigration and make Italy again the pitch. So the pitch is that Italy will invest an initial 5.5 billion to help Africa grow, so people want to live. That's essentially offering to pay Africans to leave them alone. Very funny thing indeed. In Sudan, why did South Africa's president gland hand a genocidal general? So on 4th January, of course, blaming Ramaphosa shook hand with the Sudanese militia leader, who is General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, commonly known as Hemedi. The meeting took place in Sudan's civil rage war, on which both sides accused for the real human rights violations. So Hemedi has been going around the continent, and when he met the South African government, there was a tweet on their website. This is it, where the president of South Africa said that he met the president of Sudan. Well, Ahmed is the leader of Janjaweed rebel group. So those are particularly the stories that are going on within the continent. So the story of Ruto has been captured in this article, of course, page 12. They call Less Hustle Chief. So William Ruto, he says that the hustler can mean a go-getter who brings with energy and enterprise. It can also mean a swindler, a conman, or a crook. In the first term year of office, Kenya's self-proclaimed hustler-in-chief, President William Ruto, seemed to turn his treasures into one checklist. This is very important as we today check on the elections in Africa. On the world stage, President William Ruto has positioned himself as the voice of Africa, speaking boldly on issues of climate change, the dollar supremacy, and an equal partnership between global North and South. But in an observed boardroom, Mr. Hustler is darling of Bretton Woods Institute, because he has commodified everything. Kenya is in the is hustle, and the rewards are big: luxury foreign trips, a triple budget for his spouses, alleged bribes for lawmakers, a reimbursement for state house to his taste, and $50,000 watch strapped to his waist. His position on climate change is telling. No expense has been spared in his quest to position himself as Kenya's own Greta Thunberg. He religiously attended climate events and hosted African First Climate Week, to which he drove an electric car. He also called out big initiated National Tree Planting Day, has promised 100% renewable energy by the 2030. But peel away the veneer, and you will find that Ruto has also downplayed the idea of climate change as an existential threat, instead steering the conversion towards seeing it as an opportunity. In particular, he sees in carbon credit a way to profit off the Kenyan nature, with millions of hectares of forested allocated for foreigners in secret agreement. All has to do with get Kenyans off. If you take his self-branding literacy, he's supposed to be the poor folks president. Instead, 70,000 jobs and countless small businesses have shrunk in office. Ruto has outspaced his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta. His Hustler Fund, a microfinance program, reported to stack at a default of around 9.9 billion shillings. So the story of Ruto is all captured. It's a very typical story that we'll actually have to see as to discuss these issues of election and whether they change anything in regards to the welfare of Africans. So basically, there's also the story of Kenya. It has all been captured in an extensive way, how Kenyans give their report in regards to William Ruto. The Ruto carbon dream is a nightmare for the people of Forest. All this coverage has been done, and I'll be able to share this magazine once we are done with this class, so that you can be able to get an excerpt of this, the Continent magazine. Meanwhile, that's particularly what we have to check on in terms of our interest on this, or in regards to the Pan-African magazine, which is called The Continent. So we'll open up the floor for
secret.
Anybody who have reaction?
And everybody
Yes, so anybody who has question or any concern or response to go in regards to the magazine, feel free to go ahead. Let me start by Brother Joseph Anthony. Brother Joseph, then Sister Ida.
Yeah, I know. Good afternoon and good morning and good day to everyone on the call. I know it might have come late, but the tragedy in Kenya of the gas explosion, where over three, at least at the last time I heard the news, 3 people were killed and over 300 was badly damaged, burnt, and so on. Maybe you may want just to elaborate a little on that, and probably tell us where in Kenya, which part in Nairobi, if it's in Nairobi. And then I want to inform people something I feel very uncomfortable with. You may know, some of you may know that Grenada is celebrating its 50th, in inverted commas, 50th anniversary of independence, political independence. And it have attracted a number of regional leaders and one West African leader, which I think is an insult to us. The president of Ghana is coming to Grenada. The same one who is trying to encourage the West to finish Burkina Faso and Niger and so on, who to punish. I mean, this man is coming on our shows. I feel very insulted by this individual coming to Grenada. I mean, he's another one that goes around as a Pan-Africanist, but there are bases, US bases, British military facility in Ghana.
He's fake. He's fake.
Yeah. So I just want people to know that he will be next. The Independence Day will be on, I think, Wednesday, the 7th of February. I will post whatever linkage I got and the activity on the Global Congress, Global African Congress website, UK website. So people can go there when the time comes, they can look and see. Maybe he might be addressing the call, which And in Grenada, someone tried to equate his visit with that of Kenneth Kaunda, which I don't think is the same. Or Samoa Marshall. These were outstanding leaders that came to our show. Not this one that is coming puppet of the West. Anyway, I get emotional. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In regards to the question on the recent fire in Kenya, it actually took place in my area constituency. And what happened is a densely populated area, more of like a low-class estate, close to the upper-class estate. So what happened is that the places where there is a parking of refilling of gas cylinders for cooking. So that is where what happened is that the lorry, one of the lorry that was coming to the depot for refilling the gases, actually had a gas leak. And when the gas leaked, it exploded. And then when it exploded, the gases nearby houses also exploded. So it led to serious, massive explosion in that area. And it's an area that is highly populated, densely populated. So you can imagine how the gas caused the effect across the area. It's actually been established that the center that does the refilling is not licensed. And the government has ordered for actually suspension of those officials. The president talked today, said that the people must resign and be arrested, taken to jail. And so far, the department in charge of environmental licensing has actually called off, terminated the work contract of some of their 3 officials. And we hope the government will take serious measures moving forward. So that's what happened. It was an explosion in the depot center for refilling oil gases. And that's what caused the problem. So let me get to Sister Ida. Your hand was up. If you are not ready to come in, we'll go to Brother Mr. P. Members, feel free to join us. We are in the first session of our sessions where we discuss current affairs in Africa. I've shared the magazine called The Continent, and now we're taking reactions in the next 10 minutes before we go to our main session.
I was also going to ask about the fire, so I put my hand down. Thank you.
Okay, welcome, Sister Ida.
Thank you.
Mr. P.
Yes, brother. I wanted to respond to our brother in Grenada, yeah? And I have a complaint regarding many of the islands that every year have this celebration of this false independence, yeah? Most of the islands in the West Indies are not independent. And I really wish that they would stop this nonsensical celebration of this false independence, which is not real. There are only a couple of islands that are independent in the West Indies that I know of, and I know that's the only time you get to hear about many of these islands is when it's have their so-called independence, and it really hurts me and winds me up to the point that I'm just so not interested and tired of hearing this independence what? None of them are independent. So getting back to that little short ass in Ghana that runs the country, that Pappy Show puppet, how dare he pretend to be a Pan-Africanist and visit Grenada? How dare he? I have family on that island. How dare he? Yeah. In fact, the same way in which Grenada treated the royal family from the UK and said, we don't want you on the island, should have been the same thing said to this traitor, this Pappy Show puppet from Ghana, because that's exactly what he is. He's not doing anything to help Ghanaians or the country. So, you know, I'll take my hat off and say I respect and have respect for Grenada if they turned around and said, we don't want you visiting our island because you are not who you say you are. So I just really wanted to respond to that. And going back to West Africa, in Senegal, Macky Sall, I understand, has postponed the presidential election amid integrity concerns. Now, for those of you that don't know, Macky Sall is in charge. He's the president. He's another puppet in Senegal, and there is a young man called Ousmane Sonko, who the bulk of Senegalese are actually behind. They're all behind Ousmane Sonko. But they've tried several means, nefarious means of getting rid of Ousmane Sonko because they don't want him to run, because he is a 100% Pan-Africanist. And France does not want a Pan-Africanist in charge, because once that happens, then there's going to be
Mr. P,
Sorry.
I think you're already getting into our agenda, which we'll
I'm
have
sorry.
to tackle later on the elections. So just be brief so that I call Brother Coco.
All right, I'll leave it there. But I just wanted to say that the main headline that, he's postponed the presidential elections.
Okay. Yeah. I'll go to Brother Coco, and then I'll play a short YouTube video on a coverage of multiple of election in the continent, assembled together in one of the channel in YouTube, so that we can listen to that coverage for around 10 minutes. Then now we can give small analysis and open up the group. So let me hear what Brother Coco has to say. Brother Coco?
Yeah, sorry, brother. I didn't realize that was on your agenda for tonight. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we are discussing elections tonight, so it's part of the agenda.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Okay. Brother Coco?
Thank you, my brother, for that comprehensive summary of what's happening in the continent. And thank you for sharing the magazine as well. I think it will be good to have this magazine on a weekly basis.
I've shared the magazine, and we do have it weekly basis, so I'll share it every week on this platform.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of remarks. Number one is, I'm not sure the people of Grenada are free to decide whether to host the independence celebrations or not. It's just like any other African country which continues to celebrate their fake independence. It's not just the Caribbean islands, it's everywhere. So the more we awaken as Africans and decide what we want to happen, then those fake ceremonies will stop. But until then, let's not expect a miracle. Then number two, the Western puppet who went around parading and talking for us used to be Mobutu Sese Seko of DRC, former Zaire. I don't know about Kaunda as much, but I remember Kaunda was helpful because he was there in the struggle helping the ANC. So that's number two. Number three, I have connections from Sierra Leone. I have roots in Sierra Leone, partly from my wife's side. And I can confirm that FGM is pretty rampant in Sierra Leone. So hopefully with this tragedy of some girls dying from that, maybe people will start to realize, to wake up and see that this is unfair, what is happening. I have girl pickings here in my home, and I don't like anyone's children going through that. It's a cruel practice. There are some practices which we as Africans, we have to stand up and say, this is enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Coco, for that. Going straight to the coverage in regards to the elections in Africa. I'll be playing this video shortly, so listen to the coverage. But I'll have to pause our recording a bit because we don't want to have issues with copyright issues. So it will not be part of our recording, but we will have to go through it a bit so that we can listen to what they say. So let me pause the recording, then we play the. Let me resume the recording. Thank you very much. That was an update, an exclusive update that I could actually approach and get in hold of in regards to the matters of elections in Africa. Therefore, we will only move a bit to share also comparative analysis in terms of data on African elections. Of course, you've had agendas mentioned there, what might pursue people to push people towards election, either the welfare issue, cost of living and unemployment. And the questions part of this presentation today and this class today is also to ask ourselves a question, whether do those elections change the livelihood of Africans? Do they really result to development in Africa? And whether do the citizens' voice also count? So these are part of the few things we'll have to discuss. But you're also trying to look at an African and continental scope. Why should we concentrate too much on regional elections, country elections that are also costly? So I'll share a bit comparative analysis that we've done as a class in regards to the population of Africa vis-a-vis the population of other continents or other countries, in regards also to possibly in regards to the elective position. So these are data we accumulated sometimes back as a class. We do a more of analysis and research as a class. And in this data, we are trying to check on the population of Africa in comparison to China and India, who are actually close to our population. This data was assembled sometimes back in late 2023 by myself on behalf of the class. So if we check the African population by then, it was around November, the population of Africa was standing at 1.43 billion, which is actually 1,437,580,828 population. China had a population of 1,456,000. Russia had a population of 146. We are not concerned much with Russia and US, but we'll go to India, which has a population of 1.42 billion. If we check in terms of landmass, of course, Africa has a landmass of 30.37 million kilometers square. China, with the same population, has a landmass of 9.5759 million kilometers square, and India has a population of 3.3287 million kilometers square. So actually, Africa is equivalent to almost all the continents. You can combine all the continents together, apart from only one continent. Then you can merge them into one Africa. If you check the number of presidents, head of states, imagine Africa with the same population of China has over 55 plus presidents, so-called head of states, while China with the same population only have one president. India with the same population only have one head of state. So these are very important data we have to check. So if you check, for example, the population of Africa is almost 1.4. The population of Asia, all of Asia, is 4-point-something million. And if you come here to the population of elected positions, we are checking somewhere here, you find, like, for example, a state like California, which has around 39 million, which is almost more than many African countries, has only one governor. Of course, senators, they have number of senators, number of representatives. And you go to other states, we did the comparison, but you go to where it's very interesting. For example, if we check a population like India, there's a province in India that's called Uttar Pradesh, which has a population of 199 million with only one governor. This is almost equivalent to so many African states with so many presidents and so many politicians. We went ahead to check, of course, Nigeria with, of course, 230 million by then, population with around 36 governors and the rest, and Kenya. So basically, we check that China has a population of 1.4 billion with a total of 22 provinces headed by one governor, each totaling to 22 governors. 1.4. Well, the same 1.4 in Africa, I was trying to do analysis of the research. The Google do not even have the actual number of elected leaders in Africa. If you check India with a population of 1.4, has also 28 states with 28 governors. But Africa, with 54 countries, whose population, actually only 3 countries has a possibility of a population above 100, has so many politicians. So even as we discuss today the topic of elections in Africa, we want to open up, check those key issues. One, whether these elections really, do the citizens' votes count? Do these elections result to any development in Africa? And whether do elections are the best way for revolution and development of Africa, or do you have to choose the bullet instead of the ballot? So this is an open conversation that we want to open it up now for members to give their view in regards to this. We've done a critical analysis, of course, of elections, forthcoming elections. So try to, when you're putting your points forth, try to have a comparative to try to answer to our questions to this in regards. One, is this really elections will lead us towards the unification of Africa into one continental government? And whether do these elections, citizens' vote really count? And whether do they really result to actual development among the citizens? And whether do we have to forget about election and choose the ballot revolution instead of the bullet revolution instead of the ballot revolution, like some other countries that are going on with the coups? So this is where we want to hear your views and what you think should be done. So that's the open conversation we are starting now. Let me go with Sister Ida. Sister Ida?
Brother Pigeon, I was wondering, I know that Brother Kwame asked this morning, do you have the dates of when, or like the months of when the elections are coming about in Africa? Like which months is which? Because I think some are at the beginning of this year and others are not till the end. So I was wondering if you said you would try and do it. Did you manage that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have a
the dates were in that video, I think. In the video we watched,
Yeah,
I think
but
the dates.
you know, there was
No.
so much to take in the video that I was, or
Okay.
maybe you can help us with what if there's one like next month and the month after. Sorry.
Okay, according to invitation message that I sent for this class, I'd actually attach a link for the list of elections, forthcoming elections with that organization. So if you check the invitation message for the class, there was a link I attached for that, but no problem. I'll be able to put this forth. I'll share the screen as we continue the conversation.
Okay.
I'll share the screen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, next person, please. Brother Joseph.
Yes, brother. In terms of comparison, I wouldn't make comparison relative to Africa alone, but when you consider the Caribbean, it's the same kind of thing. We have a small population, relatively speaking, but we have about 14 prime ministers. I mean, and don't talk about when they have to be represented in the international capitals. An enormous amount of money is spent on that. Notwithstanding also for the election itself, all the money that goes into competitive election, it will be spent on people's welfare. So I don't think that kind of pattern in Africa or in the Caribbean per se can help us in terms of unification. CARICOM have talked about the need to unify the people of the Caribbean, and that have not happened. And I suppose the same thing is happening in Africa, where although there's a desire, the mechanism to do that not yet to become clear. So I think to extend my comment in terms of what I think in terms of the election coming, I think we need to look at a few elections, beginning with South Africa. I think if the EFF comes into government, whether it's in a coalition or not, or by themselves, there would be some impetus towards unification and unity on the continent. I think that is the only serious. Maybe the Pan-African Congress also. I'm not too familiar with them, with the work on the ground as with the EFF. So I think we could be hopeful, and certainly I don't think the ANC have a future on its own, except if the West find a way to bolster them and get them from some crazy alliance, because all of that is in the making. Don't think that those people, those who want the status quo to remain as it is, will not go work over time to ensure that there's no fundamental change. Malema has been very, very clear. He said, we will do this. And he makes no apology and give no doubt that he's serious about what would happen. Where the others are ducking, they're hiding behind, and forgive me for the Pan-African and the folks who connected the Pan-African Congress and in South Africa. I don't know much of the workings of the group, but maybe they also are probably the only ones. But the others are playing games, and they're being coerced, they're being coalesced by the power, the people with money. You see new formation are taking place and so-called new coalition. Anyway, I'll stop here for now. But
Okay, brother.
Africa in particular.
Brother Joseph, before you leave, do you think the citizens' vote count? And do you think those elections will serve to proper development of Africans in terms of the uplifting the welfare of Africans?
Well, only if you get the people involved, like how is attempted in South Africa, where, I mean, the effort that we have the ordinary people being part of the political process, the electoral process. Yeah, I think, but I'm not convinced that it's widespread. I have a little hope in places like South Africa, that's it. But I'm not too sure in the other areas. I wish I had more hope that the people count. But unless if there's an intensification of engaging the people, I think it's unfortunate that thing that was supposed to be held in Ghana last month or so was canceled, because I think that would have given momentum in order to other places when you have all these people gathered together, the Americana and the Malema and the guy from Nigeria and so on. That would have been good because people would have known across the continent that at least the agents of change want to change things.
Thank you for that. Let me go to Elder Glenroy. Elder Glenroy, can you come in?
Yes, greetings. Sorry I'm so late, but I'm also wondering, I'm third in line. Are you calling me out of line?
Oh, Brother Mr. P had gave the opinion before, so I referred to you being the first time you're doing the comment, then I'll go back to him.
Okay. Well, the first thing I would like to say, and apologies, I've been, 50 odd minutes of this. Is for me, a very important discussion that I wanted to be part of. Let me put on the table the things that many people run away from and are frightened, that we could have a one-party state or one-party in these countries. In other words, nobody is standing for their particular party, and those that got the top vote could be form the government. The other thing I'd like to put on the table is it's all very well to say that we will have one president, but I suspect that for a period of time, and probably quite a long period of time, if we had one president of the continent, we would have elections that are involving many, many people from across the continent. And if you are concerned about costs that are utilized to go into these elections, think of a candidate from South Africa who is traveling up and down the continent to, I don't know, Cairo, Burkina Faso, etc., in order to campaign for president of the continent. So we need to think very carefully about that, because we might just be replicating what they're doing in the US. Millions, they have a vast war chest in all of these parties that people are running up and down the US carrying out campaign election. Do we really want the same thing? Again, this is not to say that we keep the system that's in place, because clearly it's designed to divide and rule, and it's designed to create little puppets to say, I'm president of this and I'm president of that, regardless of the size of the country. So we need to address that. I don't think we can depend on revolutionary change. I don't think we can depend on military overthrow, because there's not always been in our best interests. Let's remember what happened with Osagyefo and others, Mobutu in Congo and so on. There are bad examples. So far, we have been subject to some very positive military coup. I think the question about their longevity, how long will they be in place, is also a question we must ask. It is right and proper that we should think of a united Africa, but I think we should be thinking in terms of how these regional structure might actually come to life and actually be active entities. Despite the fact that obviously what's happening with ECOWAS is, I think, a necessary action given the behavior of Nigeria and others. I think what Niger, Mali, and so on are doing are correct political response, but it's something that I hope in the long run it will return to some of the regional structures that we're supposed to have. Now, I heard somebody said that there are players in each of these regions are not interested in unification. How did people see the regional structures playing out? I saw it being a process of learning to work without boundaries and borders in region, in order that each region will then come together and be able to get rid of their boundaries on borders. But we won't get rid of easily people who want to be prime minister of this and prime minister of that. So we need to think a bit harder about that. But I'm certainly not keen that we just replicate the US, where candidates are running up and down the continent. And as you pointed out earlier on, I caught that bit. The size of the continent in comparison to the US, in comparison to Europe, again, we are in danger of just tying ourselves to a situation where we are draining our resource. We've got to think of better ways to do this. And I think that possibility of each region electing a deputy president or something of that nature, or a party or a Congress that elects the president would be more appealing than, say, a party that's running around the continent, wasting resource trying to win votes. So I'll leave it there, Chair. Sorry again that I missed the beginning. I really wanted to be part of all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Elder Glenn. Thank you very much for your contributions. Yes, indeed, you're making it a serious point in terms of what you are calling the costings of traveling. But you check also how much is Africa continent losing in these so-called elections per countries. For example, the estimated election in Kenya that took place in 2022, it was estimated to cost around over $160 million, which was equivalent to almost 18 billion Kenya shillings to arrange those elections. And I remember still the system were to be procured, and one of the president, when he was to be included in the ballot, the Electoral Commission said it will cost them almost 960 million Kenya shilling to include one person on the ballot. We are trying to call for digital elections as an alternative to reduce the costing of elections in Africa, like what Brazil is doing, so that you don't spend much in terms of the day of campaign, having things like agents, the ballot boxes transferred, stolen, disappeared, printing of ballot boxes. It's also another way we must think whether we can also maybe adopt digital voting system in terms of reducing the costing of voting in Africa. But the key question still remains to us: do the votes of citizens count? And whether do those elections transform to development of Africans? And lastly, do these elections and continuous elections in African countries, do they really have a strategy to scale us towards a unified continent where we can maybe look over a unified continental election system than actually a single country election system? Let me get back to you, Brother Leroy, if in case you have a comeback to these points I've raised, then I'll go to Brother Mr. P and then Coco.
I just wanted to quickly say that I think the question about whether the vote is valued is a double-edged sword. You know, it has to be that participation of ordinary people, rank and file people, is key. It's important. But to say that, you know, as to whether it's influencing people further up the chain is a wider question, because at the end of the day, the people who are standing for election have a different method or methodology of getting their votes. They actually, what they do, as you know, in so many countries, is people buy votes. So is it then the same value as what I'm referring to, in the sense of, you know, that everybody should have a say? I think so the question really is a bit loaded. It has a lot of aspect to it, and I think, again, it's one of these things that need to be precise. Is it the same in every region, the value of each person's vote? I think that's a discussion that I'd like to put on the table as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Of course, as that said famously in Africa, that it's not those who vote that count, it's those who count that count. And the question sometimes becomes, after depositing or putting your ballot box, your voting card or your voting paper on the ballot, how can you verify that it was counted? The aspect has been never all about who vote, it's all about who count. But let's continue this conversation. Let me hear what Mr. P has to say. Mr. P, come in regards to also those three key questions: whether they count, whether does it translate to development, and what do you think, should we continue the same process of election or take the other revolutionary side? But at last, do these elections really lead us towards the unification of Africa? Thank you.
Answering your last question first, I don't think that they will. The current election systems that we're using in Africa are not African. Everything has been done by design. Therefore, when you look at Africa, there's 54 countries. I mean, I only really recognize about 48, but there's 54 countries that have been divided back in 1884 in the Berlin Conference. Yeah, it's a similar thing in the West Indies. Yeah, each island is a nation. Okay, and when I look at it, I see a similarity. I see divide and rule, divide and conquer. When you look at, China, it's got the same population as the whole of Africa. One government, one currency. All right, they've got two languages, but one leadership, one person in charge. When you look at Africa, you've got, your analysis was spot on. You've got 54 countries, you've got 54 bloody currencies, and you've got hundreds of languages. So how are we going to unify? How is this going to happen? And for many years, I kind of lost hope until I saw what happened recently in the Sahel with Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. And they're actually creating a federation, and that's the beginnings of a unification of Africa. And I think that what's happening there needs to be supported, and we need to get behind, 100% behind these brothers, and find a way of kicking these puppets out and creating our own system, because the current system, if we're going to unify,
Mr. P, you're frozen.
Sorry,
or you're either muted. I'm not sure what happened, but
oh, I'm unmuted. I wasn't muted. Maybe it's a signal.
Okay.
We can still hear him.
Oh, right. Okay. Maybe it's your local network, Pigbin. But yeah, the current system can't and won't work for the unification of Africa. I mean, firstly, we've got too many puppets in there that need to get kicked out. There needs to be a bleaching or a washing or a cleaning, a disinfecting politically throughout the whole of Africa. How that's going to happen, I don't know. I really don't know how. Yeah, but it's what needs to happen before any kind of unification. I mean, I'm at 100% behind unification, but that's $1 million question. How do we do that? But using the current system, I don't think is going to be effective, is going to be fair, or is going to actually work. So I'll leave it there for now. Let Brother Coco come in and say what he wants to say.
Thank you for that, Brother Coco. Still on those three questions: whether it counts, whether it leads to development, and whether it will also lead us to the unification of Africa. What do you think about it? You've seen the analysis, you've seen the forthcoming elections, you've seen the comparative statistic I've shared. What's your take? What's your thinking on this?
Yeah, thank you, my brother. Good questions and also very difficult questions. First of all, I would like to remind members here that one of our eminent Pan-Africanists who was in the US, when he introduced Nkrumah to George Patmore in England, at the time he said, there is this young man here, he's not very smart, but he wants to kick the colonists out of Africa. So help him all you can. So that was the humble beginnings of the partnership of Nkrumah and George Patmore. I'm talking about this because everyone thinks they have a solution for Africa. You find that there are so many solutions, so many options, so many ideas, but they never come together to lead us to wherever we call it emancipation. To answer your questions, I live in the West, and I've seen what the democracy here does. There is a lot of what you call lobbying. So effectively, we are held hostage here by corporates. So there is no longer what you call democracy, but what you call corporacy. Corporacy is the one that rules us. So moving to Africa. Africa, we know we are under neo-colonialism. So indirectly, what the corporates are doing, controlling governments here, they are then indirectly controlling our end. Our electors, they go to the polls and vote governments in, but at the end of the day, they can't see the benefits of that. So no, it doesn't count. And I'm going to again look on a micro level at my country in Lesotho. So there's a new party that came into power and promised lots of changes. They formed this party in March, and then in September, they had gone to elections and won elections. They promised meritocracy, but that didn't happen. They came in with their own people. So imagine then you are doing this every 5 years. You come in with your new people, and then you lose the next election. You come in with your new people. What's going to happen to the policy continuity? It's forgotten. It's gone. That's why one of the Pan-Africanists in the Francophone countries, a lady with Mansa, said democracy is a dictatorship. There is this dictatorship that happens on a 5-yearly basis. I mean, 5-year basis. I can see that Rwanda here is doing it on a 7-year basis. I don't know why all these other countries are doing it on a 4 or 5 years. Why? What's happening? 4 or 5 years, you start to do something, another government comes in and they want to reverse those changes. It doesn't work. So my wife's country in Sierra Leone, there was SLPP before. SLPP lost the votes and then APC came. APC comes in and they are stealing, they are looting, making sure that they are enriching themselves. It's a competition of who can steal the most. With individualism that we have happening now in our system that we have inherited from the West, there is no way the man there on the ground, the man there at the village level is going to benefit. All right? Leaving that, then let's talk about how democracy works. I think I shared this in the group which you were in, Comrade Pigman. We compared China with the West. There's a video that compares China with the West. With China, Xi Jinping, he came in through the local structures. To be where he is, he came from the very bottom. He is aware of all the issues that happen in China. He didn't just come up from uni and then have some people he knows in parliament or some leaders, which is what they do here in England where I live. You see people being pals or being PAs for prime minister or leader of the opposition, and then from there they go on to lead. Let's look at Sunak. Sunak, he went to a private school where he got all his education. Then from there he went to Oxford, I think, and then from Oxford he went to Harvard. He came back. He knew. He networked, in short. He doesn't know anything that happens on a local level. So how is he expected to lead? How is he expected to make sure that service delivery goes to the people? They don't have a clue. There is a disconnect between the local delivery and the central government. That is a problem. Then I want to correct one thing here, which I see we are making lots of mistakes about. We continue comparing China with Africa or India with Africa. Don't forget, China integrated their tribes a long time ago under either the Ming dynasty or the Qing dynasty, a long time. And then when they got their own independence, they fought for their own independence. They went for Chineseness. They changed everything and made sure that they take out whatever it is they inherited from the West. We haven't done that. We are still Europeans in black skins. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Coco. Of course, you've also raised some key points. You see, in the magazine we covered today, they talk about President William Ruto. They covered what he has done, of course, in regards to what citizens are now experiencing after promising citizens heaven, after appearing to be or campaigning on a slogan of being a hustler, the low person in the community. He has actually forced and made the low people suffer a lot. I stay in Kenya. The former president, who was his president and he was the deputy of that president, warned people that I know this person, don't vote him, is not the right person. But people out of those so-called other tribalism or either being lied to be so-called hustlers and poor people like himself decided to vote him in. Today, people are seeing what he does, and that's why we ask, 60 years since independence, so-called independence, have actually the life of Africa been transformed with these continuous and frequent elections that have been held that have actually costed Africa a lot of resources? But the manifestos that the current politician will stand up with in 2024 is almost the same manifesto that was fed in so-called independence of any other country. So what has been going on? Have we been just spending our money to change leaders without changing our life, and lose or actually lose our resources, have leaders who go make deals that actually go against our unification, against our welfare, and then we just stay there forever? It's like you're in a circle, only facilitating a circle of 8 years or 5 years election every day, but nothing else changed in the total, or actually the cosmetic outfit of Africans. Nothing changed in terms of their welfare. In fact, things get worse, you see. So this is a bigger question we are asking. We are doing a critical analysis of elections in Africa, and we actually want to come up with what's the way forward. Of course, I hear your point of us not comparing China, but if they did that, combine their unities and their whatever you call their difference and make it into one, what stops us from doing that? They did it themselves. They were never, those changes they made as either China to make them unified or India doing the same, they were never forced by the West or external forces. The people within India or China decided to bring that united front of a country. What stops us from doing that? I know the
Exactly.
I know the West is stopping us, but can we say that we cannot attain it because we are different? They were different like us, but they made it into one point, and that's the point we must make it to. But you see, today, my so-called tribe A, I'll be fighting the tribe B because that president belongs to so-called tribe, which they call it nations, so-called ethnic tribe. So when the president of that ethnic tribe win, my ethnic tribe will go fight that ethnic tribe. If my person loses, the other side will fight it. So do you see that after every election we have so many people losing life, and people who lose life are not politicians, are ordinary Africans? Why do they lose life? They fight in lines of tribe or politician A or politician B. Now, how will you really achieve the unification of Africa if this is a smaller division that's going on within so-called small countries that actually jeopardize the unification goal of Africa? So let's continue the conversation. We still have around 46 minutes or 36 minutes to go. But let me hear what Joseph wanted to say. Then I'll go to our sisters in the room. Sister Ida, Sister Hadija, welcome. We have Sister Myra, Sister Shasha, you have Sister Shola. Kindly feel free to come in and share your thinking as well. Mr. Joseph, please, Joseph.
Yeah, I'll just support the Coco in terms of we need to remove the vestiges of colonialism and neo-colonialism in the sense that some of the structures that we continue to willfully operate within and move towards beginning. And the other thing about it, we shouldn't really necessarily think that there will be change overnight because change takes a long time. So working towards the breaking down and the building up of a new order based on our Africanness could be one of our goals. But in the interim, we need to still use some of the facilities that is available, knowing that our ultimate aim is their destruction. Not necessarily violently, but very pointedly, very firmly, we will get them out of it. And at various levels, various sectorial, the whole of religion, the whole of the economy, all that kind of thing. You see, as long as we have the economy being at the center, it being kept at the center of everything, we would have the disorder we have. We have to change that. The European to Adam Smith and so on that initiate that. We have to bring back the society as the guardian, as the real arbiter that decides how the economy would serve the rest of the society. So that's the one. In terms of notwithstanding the size of the continent, we have to realize that there's certain things that would be in our favor this time around. Technology. Because, for instance, whereas people would have had to move about and go in order to vote or to canvass, we can develop the capacity, technological capacity that there could be communication across any region or right across the continent. But that will need some investment. So you don't necessarily have to have people being bussed there or traffic, carried here or there. You can have people in the locality having people who present themselves as interested in serving them. And the other thing about that, and I agree, like the Chinese leader, people should come from the bottom. They should start at the bottom. They should get their induction, not because they have a certificate, a degree, or they have friendship. And the other thing about it is, I know I can't keep speaking, but one of the roles that the people been playing for the longest time, which we have to get people to begin questioning that, is that they're legitimizing these unworkable systems that work against us. Generally, we legitimize them by when they say, well, we voted, yes, or whatever. Maybe in some situation we have to totally encourage people to totally boycott those processes, so that there will be no legitimacy. And as such, maybe now we give rights to people deciding, okay, let's set it right now. I just wanted to put this on the table in a matter of speaking, like Elder Glenroy was here. Put it on the table. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Yes. Of course, the logistics in terms of coordinating a continental election through technology can actually reduce a lot of costings and everything else, even transmission of resource and everything else, which is also a bigger possibility. If you have to envision a United Nations of Africa, how will it look like? How will they conduct this? But you see, elections also is being said, like you see, the Communist Party of China is a one-party state country, and they don't go through normal elections, so you can't get the costings in terms of how much they cost for elections. But let me hear, I know Mr. P hand is up, but let me hear what sisters have to say. Alternative voices are here also. Sister Ida? Sister Ida?
Sorry, I was just finishing off something, so I was hoping you'd ask another sister before me, because I was writing in the chat that I think that Brother Lebo has a really good point about the fact that rural areas are not really having a say, and I was saying that I think until they actually get to speak up, we won't really get change in most countries, and we won't see change in political systems till our brothers in the rural areas have the ability to be on chats like this, or have a better education that is not necessarily a colonial education, but that they can bring some of their education that they have to others in either the country, the diaspora, or wherever. I think that until we have people at I hate to say at the bottom, but people who don't have a say start to have a say, we won't see change. That's what I think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sister Ida. Of course, Common Chrome in the book Neo-Colonialism said that the revolution will not be won until it is taken to the masses. Until the masses buy the revolution, there will not be revolution. So, of course,
Yes.
it's the task of the vanguards, and it's the task of the revolutionary minds to transfer and take the revolution to the masses. Because the revolution can only be won and be protected by the masses. The elitism type of revolution is not actually the progressive revolutions. It actually takes us to the change of one elite to a next elite, change of one rich man to the next rich man. But the real people who actually go out to vote every day have not done this. And see, the approach that is missing most of the time is that politics in Africa has also been made expensive. For example, even to get a ticket, look at the political parties. Most of political parties in Africa are elite political parties. You realize that even to get a ticket to run for any position in those political parties in Africa, you have to have some money. It's very costly. So they make it as a way to block the ordinary so-called poor people, the low-class people, from actually getting the position. So you only become voting tools and voting machines to vote, but you don't have power beyond voting, maybe to be voted in. And these are the dynamics that really need to change and need to be challenged, you see. So it is true, yeah, those are challenges we have with You can contact me or you can join our WhatsApp group using the link I've shared so that you can keep more updates on this. Because sometimes I share in WhatsApp group, but sometimes I share in the broadcast list. So if you contact me, I can add in a broadcast list so that you can get updates of our coming classes. We also have a YouTube channel where you can go and follow all our discussions in terms of philosophical discussions and the African unification discussion. There are over 60 videos that you have uploaded in our class recordings there. So thank you very much. I know the hands are up of our brothers and elders on the room, but I still feel that I need to get one or two sisters to give their comments. So permit me a bit to go to two sisters here to give their comment before I go back to our brothers whose hands are up. So Sister Khadija or Sister Maira, any of you, including Sister Shasha, anybody want to come in, kindly feel free to come in. Sister Maira, Sister Khadija, or Sister Shasha. I think Sister Shawla is also here. Any of you want to come in quickly? You can easily come in before we move to our brothers in the room.
Yes, I've got nothing to say at this point, brother. I've got nothing to say at this point. Thank you. Sister
Thank you,
Khadija
Sister.
speaking.
Thank you, Sister Khadija. Pleasure to see you and have you around. Sister Maira?
Yeah, no comment today. Thank you.
The sisters are silent, so you're taking notes. Okay. Sister Shasha?
Yeah, I've got nothing to say either, but I'd just like to fully concur with the sister that just made a comment, the one with regarding African spirituality. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go now to Mr. P, and then we'll go to Coco, and then Brother Glenroy. Angela, you'll come later. I know your hand's up now, but you come later. So Mr. P, maybe quickly, we have around 21 minutes remaining. We want to move to the question. We want to move to the question. Okay, we want to move to the question in this particular moment on what must be done. Okay, what's the way forward?
Yeah, this is what I wanted to have had a little think about things. It's quite clear to all of us, not just on this call, but as Africans and in the countries and in the diaspora, that the current system of so-called, quote, democracy, unquote, doesn't work. It doesn't work for us. It hasn't worked. It doesn't work. So I think we need to look maybe at meritocracy as a way forward, or even there's a system called communalism that we could also look at as well, because what we're doing right now it's not working. And like I said in the chat, we keep fluctuating. You have one government, and then for 5 years, and then they get kicked out. Another government comes in, undoes what the previous government did, and do what they want to do, which doesn't work. And then the other guys come back, and it keeps fluctuating in and out, in and out, in and out. So nothing gets done, or if it does get done, it's going to take forever. The third thing I wanted to make, and this is food for thought. Is it possible? I don't know how, but is it possible to have like an oversight committee which runs above the president or the governing body of the country, which will be like a court, in fact, that if the leaders are found to be corrupt or embezzling funds or doing anything that they should not be doing, they are held to account by this committee. I think something like that is what is needed to monitor, to track, to watch, to keep an eye on the people in charge. So I just wanted to suggest those things.
Thank you, Brother Mr. P. But you must also recognize that in the parliamentary system, it's the role of the politician to do representation, oversight, and legislation. So when the parliamentarians does the oversight the executive, the president. So they become like the watchdogs of the president. But the system where the election come in, and how do you get the parliamentarian become political parliamentarian through the president's political party, then it means that the president is the senior of those who should oversight him. Because you are a member of parliament to a political party that is led by the president. So how do you want to oversight the president who is your leader of the parliament of your political party? So there's a confusion bit a bit, but actually the three arms of government ought to oversight each other. The executive, the judiciary, and the parliament, you see, they're interdependent, but the parliament has the responsibility for oversight, which they don't do, actually. But let me get quickly to Brother Coco. I'll give you, Brother Coco, an opportunity also later to share something before we wind up. Brother Coco?
Thank you, brothers. Mr. P, good points. I would like to link the points you're raising with what my brother Gani and my sister Lewuchang said. So we were colonized by foreigners who didn't know our systems. They came in and took away our traditional governance and replaced those with whatever they wanted to do. So you see what they have done. They have actually divided and conquered us, and we are continuing to do that. So before we go anywhere, we need to get rid of that system that they have installed. We need to go to who we are first. We need to be cognizant of what they have been doing to us. Then there are these two forms of governance, or these two forms of electoral processes. There is one called first past the post, and then representative one, and then there is the presidential system or party system, political party system. So there are lots and lots of systems there within democracy. Democracy is not just one uniform system, and that also has to be taken into account. And if you see in South Africa, a winning party selects the president. We don't select the president in South Africa. In short, it's the party or a few people within that party who selects the ruling someone who's coming to make lots and lots of important decisions on our behalf. So that to me is not democracy. It's not a representative democracy. And my sister Lewuchang also said the quota system. The quota system, Mr. P, is more or less like what you're talking about as communalism. Everyone had a word. Everyone had a representation all the way from the local villages. They had a way in which how the country is run. It's what we need to be aiming for as Africans. Our traditional governments, our traditional kingdoms are still there. And Sister Lewuchang, Botswana and Lesotho are one, as you know. I'm running part of Fort. I'm leading Fort governance, and I'm trying to look into that. So we will be doing some work to get to that. Last point before I go is that our diaspora are key to us. They are very important. They bring a lot which we miss. They bring what we call outside in knowledge. And if you have listened to senior elder Antoine Joseph, he came up with very, very important points, which have been raised before by Professor Kwesi Pra. He said, let's look at culture. Let's look at society. Society is important, not just economics. Economy has been put there because they were capitalists. They were vultures. They wanted to loot our resources and distracted us by saying economy is important. Economy is not by itself sufficient. The people are. And we need to remember who the people are. The people are the owners of the resources. The people are the principals. And government is only but the agent of the people. We elect the government. If we elect the government, then the government has to do our bidding, but they don't. And last, before I go, Mr. P, the electoral model as it is not going anywhere towards uniting us, because those same people who are ruling in their countries form part of what we call the AU summit, and they make the decisions on where AU is going. So African Union, forget about it. It's not going anywhere as long as those guys which we are trying to unseat hold the power over us. There is a Pan-African Parliament right now, but I don't think it has any power, unfortunately. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that contribution.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Let's go to Gleroy, then Anjola, and then Joseph. We are having 14 minutes to go, so can you be brief a bit?
Yeah, I'll try to be quick, but I do want to return to this theme that I've mentioned earlier on about one-party elections. In other words, members of each region or country and whatever will be running for position in government rather than for their party, and running for position to contribute to the development and benefit of the people, not for their party, not for their personal ambition. So I do think that's one way that I would want to look at. Could we have all of the people interested in serving the people from a political point of view, from a parliamentary point of view, that they all stand in the same election, they all are restricted on how much they are allowed to spend in propaganda, etc., etc. And at the end of the day, those with the biggest vote, and those could be divided up into various structures to ensure that there are proper representation, section for youth, section for women, section for people with disability, and so on and so forth. But all will be in an election in the same party. And at the end of the day, when the dust is settled, you don't have a situation where people are seeking to enrich is a term has been used, enrich themselves out of the country's purse, because everyone in that party will be able to be the safeguard of the behavior of those people. I'm not saying it will be a cure for corruption, but it certainly would be a means to check it. But I think, again, I would want to have a wider discussion on that suggestion, because a lot of people will all sort of freak out when you talk about one-party state, because the experience we've had of it has not been good. But if that party was about serving the people, if a Pan-Africanist process was existing in a particular country, and everybody who participated in that had the Pan-Africanist philosophy in their mind, then I think that's one way forward. I'll leave it there, Chair, as you mentioned time. Thank you.
Thank you, Elder Aguilera. Of course, there's a discussion we can front for our further discussions, because it reached a moment when Nkrumah recommended one-party state. I think he even made it one-party state, and it was viewed to be more of a dictatorship a bit. Of course, China survived in that one-party state up to date, and that's how they managed to actually unite their population, which is equivalent to African population. So also one-party state is a possibility for unity than claiming for free space for democracy, which actually still don't actually unite you. Many political party states still appears like the colonial divisions and boundaries. So yes, the possibility of one-party state is also something we need to discuss. And as you said, it will put it forth maybe in any of our forthcoming meetings, either this month, end of the month, or next month, probably, so that we can have a wider discussion on possibility of one-party state and whether we should move to that. Because when you're talking of a unification of Africa into one continental space, everything must be one. We must have one currency, one whatever. So everything must be one. We must agree to reach to that oneness than the divisions amongst us. But let me hear what Brother Angela have to say. We have also 9 minutes to go. Angela and then Joseph. Can you come in very fast? Angela? Angela Ademola.
Hi, good evening, Brother Pigbin. Thank you.
Your network is not well. Your network is not good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now proceed.
So, when we say talk about the resolution by ballot or bullet, I think first thing we need to make people understand is it's about the person and not the tradition. It's about the culture. It's about the system with a little bit of the culture. While the citizens' votes sometimes count, we need to understand that there are certain procedures and there are certain fundamental acts we must remind ourselves as we are doing as political elections are taking in. And we must also remember that political has two different sectors. So you need to understand how it is being played, and you also need to understand the level at which it's being played. But I would like to agree to what the comments that the sisters have said, and I'm also in support of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Angela, for that. Brother Joseph, Elder Joseph?
Yeah, to continue, I think one of the things, the challenges that we face as a people is the need to continue decolonizing our minds. Because until we work on that, even though our aspiration might be freedom, might be emancipation, we will be still perpetuating the fallout of the damages that have been done for us. In that respect, one of the things that we might see characterize China, if I should use China as an example, and it is said that China have two languages, but they basically, I mean, maybe they understand each other, the two languages understand each other, and somehow we have to find a way so that people could communicate. As you said, Brother Pigeon, one language or two language, one in the east, one in the west, but maybe 3, 4. But we should have some a way that we could understand each other, and maybe that should be one of the priority of any Pan-African serious venture going forward. There's another thing I was going to say, which I'm seeming to forgetting. And the one-party state, the one party. Remember, concept of state and all of that is something that we have taken borrowed from others, because we had, the African people had different arrangement, different way of doing life. And so maybe we need to ask ourselves, did the one-party state fail, or was it made to fail? The one that people like Nkrumah, that Nyerere, Kaunda, these three I would mention, tried to make work, or even Samoa Machel of Mozambique, tried to get underway. Were they allowed to succeed? Couldn't have been maybe a model we could follow, or do we need to go back and see why they failed, and what needs to be done if you're going to go via one party, using one party approach? Because to me, if you have multi-party, and this is what the West imposed on countries in the 90s with the structural adjustment and so on, is a sure way for division and corruption and everything else. The same way when they say diverse the economy, or like deregulate and all that kind of stuff, that it really dismantles the fabric of the society. And again, we need to have the society being the main pillar, not the economy. If we have it like that everything will be done, because that includes honoring our ancestors and preparing for our descendants. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We can't end without Fokwa. Brother Fokwa, I know you've got in touch with our sister in spirituality, Angon, and I believe you people can do something for the continent as you synergize together. But let me also hear your comments in regards to this as we close our meeting. We have 4 minutes to go, so maybe 2 minutes to you, Brother Fokwa.
Yes, respect to the group. The sister's name again. She was like, I gave a brief message comment in the chat group, basically alluding to this idea that if we really
your audio is not a bit clear, Brother Fokwa.
Oh my goodness. I don't know, is it the network? Is it clear now? Or is it shaking?
I think the microphone you're using or the device you're using is having some noise.
I can hear you all right. I can hear okay.
Okay, proceed.
Yes. I'm using my Samsung. I would be surprised. But just to reflect, we ourselves, we're at a level of our own, I don't want to say education at times, because it would take us into thinking of only the academic classrooms, but we're enlightened. We're people who, even outside of this forum, we know that our states as African states, I like how one brother pointed it out, 54 of them were created only in 1884. So from that basis, and we're talking about democracy, which we're looking at the idea of representation. Since our states were not created by ourselves, our monarchs, our kings, they never came together and said, let us make these current states that we are living in. It will be next to impossible for us to really acknowledge that democracy on our continent is bringing change, because the colonial structures as corporations, which was also pointed out are responsible for why these states exist for economic exploitation. So what happens is that Europe had their monarchical transition to their republic system where corporations and lay citizens are in control. And then they came to Africa and imposed it on us in such a way that they can extract showboys and showgirls who have no technocratic experience, no meritocracy to become now the quote unquote leadership of our states to continue to exploit our minerals, our resources, and give to them in the situation that we are in. So even to reason that this system could lead to some unification of Africa, really understanding that that's never its purpose. It can't be accomplished. Now, if we had had some grand war empire leaders like Europe had, the Napoleons and Constantines and all of these people, we heard of the dynasty in China that forcefully brought everyone together, then we wouldn't be in this situation. But since we didn't get that because Europe invaded us, the only way we will attain it would be like what we are doing right now. And I'll start landing. Like we're actually doing, like I said in the chat, each one teach one, the idea of decolonizing our minds and doing it individually as we become enlightened to have this knowledge to share amongst each other. And even the grassroots is where we should be concentrating, knowing that this system with its academic structure and educational system from primary to even say high school will not properly empower our future generations, our children, our youths. It's up to us now to acknowledge that since the military expansion didn't unify us, we have to lobby, like one brother pointed out. We have to lobby as individuals to each other and make sure that we continue to empower and share this knowledge to awaken our people into this understanding of what African geopolitics is. Because as far as our people will never understand, we spoke of all the elections coming this year. And I like how one brother said it. It's a vicious cycle. We see this over and over and over. Sometimes we even just reclude to trying to do our own business and make money to survive and not think about this. But the elections will repeat these cycles until the population knows this and they're able to value their vote in such a way that we do select leadership that truly merits and will fight for our aspirations and put us into economic positions where we can control our resources, like we see the Sahel block of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso is really triumphantly demonstrating that what we've seen for the last 60 years, it's clear, it's puppetry. And until you remove the puppets to work on a system indigenously from a grassroots level of enlightenment, then we're just not going to succeed. But I think that's what we're doing right now. The problem is that continentally, it's kind of defragmented. We have little groups here and there, but if we can amalgamate gradually into a global, not global, but a continental type of movement, but that acknowledges the power belongs to us as sons and daughters of the soil, not these foreign institutions that are created, then I think that gradually, not even gradually, we will get there, family. We're en route. That's where I will land.
Thank you, Brother Fokwa. Of course, we are 1 minute past our time. And thank you for your contribution. Of course, Sister Lebo, kindly share your contact in the chat so that we can be able to get in touch with you, and also you can get in touch with Brother Fokwa. Of course, even as you can see, we are moving towards the unity. And in this forum today, of course, we have almost over 10 different organizations of called Pan-African Movement represented here. Right from Glero GSCs here, we have Farmhouse of Thoughts here, we have so many organizations coming together, and that's what we want to open. We want to open a conversation and a platform where all these so-called Pan-African organizations can sit down to discuss an agenda, discuss a common idea for the continent, because that has been lacking. Everybody wants to operate in their own states and their own cocoons, the way these countries in Africa, so-called countries, want to operate in their own things, and at the end of the day, there's nowhere they're going. They just want to call themselves Kenya, Uganda, and the rest in a competition that not even improve the welfare of any of them, you see. So yes, it is high time that we need to open up such spaces for conversation where we can synergize and actually be into same action towards the liberation of Africa. As you can say, it is all multifaceted. The people must do political angle, the people must do economical angle, there are brothers in spiritual angle, realm. So we must do all this. And we as a class, we are open to this. And we look forward to more conversations of this. We are not actually in competition, but you're a platform where we must start the discussion of where and how do we attain the unity of a continent. And this call upon all of us. So without much time, of course, I want to thank you all for your attendance today. And I do really appreciate your presence today. And probably I'll give Sister Ida to give us just a small comment of a closing remark today. Sister Ida?
Oh, sorry. I thank you all. I really do, because it's been interesting. I thought that we were going to go down the route of oh, we need change, but not actually have any ideas of how we change. So I did think that it was interesting, some of the last bits that we were hearing, and along the way, what people had said. So I thank you all, and I hope that you will come to the Thursday class and also to next Saturdays. So thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Sister Ida. Mr. P, we are past our time, but
I know we're past time. I just wanted to mention to everybody very quickly that you are going to be my special guest on my radio show on Monday. So I'm just inviting everybody on the call to join us on Community Connection with special guest Pigbin. He's going to be a guest on my show on Monday. I've posted the details in the chat. So you've got the information there, and it'd be great if you could join us on the show on Monday. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you very much, all comrades. Actually, let's keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Yeah, good night, everybody.
Good night. Good night.